our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brandon House.
Welcome. Glad you're with us. Going to be joined here in just a minute by Chris Martenson. We're going to do a little quick financial update, talk about digital IDs, digital dollars, debasement of the U.S. currency, and where things are going. We also, of course, have the concern about farmers, cattle, lots of imports, I guess, now for beef coming from Argentina. There's so much to be concerned about related to, what we never thought was even possible. The destruction of America's food supply in the United States of America, something that some of my guests have been warning about for years. We'll get into a little bit of this today with Chris Martenson. Then we're going to be joined by Olivier Melnick, our Jewish friend Olivier. There's always plenty to talk about when it comes to anti-Semitism and the attack not on just Jews, but on Christians as well. I was having a conversation today with one of my friends here in town who is Orthodox Jewish gentleman. And he said something to me very interesting, which is exactly what I said to my wife a few weeks ago. I said, you know, watching what's happening in America, you can see how it is that the Holocaust happened. We're looking around at the rise of anti-Semitism and how it's sweeping the so-called MAGA movement, the Make America First movement, all of this anti-Semitism that I think we saw on display even during the Religious Liberty Commission yesterday, by which I guess that gal, Prégine, has been removed from the committee. I'll get to that in a minute. But we're watching this rise of attacks on Christians, particularly Christian Zionists, and our Zionist Jewish friends. And who would have ever thought that this kind of thing would be coming from not just the left, but also the right? And I said to my wife a few weeks ago, you can kind of now get a feel for what it was like for the Jews and their friends in Germany in the 1930s. It just kind of happened without people realizing, until it bubbled up to the surface and happened then all of a sudden, right? But it wasn't really all of a sudden. The foundation had been laid for years in advance. And that's exactly what my Jewish friend said to me today. I said, wow, here I am, a Gentile, you're a Jew. I'm saying the same thing recently to my wife in a conversation. You're saying that to me. And we've never discussed this before. Happening so fast. I said to him, you know, in one of my books a few years ago, The Coming Religious Reich, 2016, Religious Trojan Horse, 2011, and then my book, Marxianity, 2018, all of those books had a common theme. You know what that common theme was? There's several common themes through those books, but you know what one of them is? I predicted so many years ago, and if you again go back onto the archives of this broadcast, you will hear me warning about the fact that much of the persecution that many of us as Christians will come under will come from the church, from so-called Christians, little c Christians. It'll be a false dominant church that's rising that will persecute real Christians and also many of our Messianic Jewish friends or even our Orthodox Jewish friends. It'll come from the left and the right. How many years have we been warning about the useful idiots in America? That's a historical name, by the way, not calling someone a name. Not that I'm opposed to doing that. Jesus did that. Vipers. You have your father, the devil. You're like whitewashed tombs full of dead men's bones. I did a whole series once, on the insults of Jesus, understanding the insults of Jesus. They were far more cutting than we realize. But you have to understand the culture, the Jewish culture, and what he was saying to them in the Jewish culture. Whew, they were tough. But this term, useful idiot, that is not a term I'm using just to throw a name around at people. That's a historical classification that the communists bragged about many decades ago. We'll use these useful idiots. And then when we take over, they'll be the ones that scream the loudest when we don't give them any power. and will eliminate them, imprison them, and torture them. And that's exactly what we see in one regime after another. And there are religious folks, quote religious, and useful idiots on the right within evangelicalism and on the left. And for how many years have I warned that many of these so-called religious people, religious leaders, pastors, so-called, are laying the foundation for Islam to take over by being involved in interfaith dialogue, by attacking those of us that warn of the dangers of interfaith dialogue, that warn of the dangers of Islam. Who's attacking us? Religious people, religious leaders, useful idiots on the right. But I said to my Jewish friend today, are you aware of the pincher strategy? Being attacked from the left and attacked from the right, attacked from the left and attacked from the right. And I said, and who is in the middle? Who is in the middle? It is Christians, Christian Zionists, and Jewish Zionists, and Gentile Zionists, because again, there's a distinction between a Zionist and a Christian Zionist. Zionists believe in the historical right of the Jewish people of the land. Christian Zionists believe in that, but also add in their biblical right to the land. Who's in the middle? When the left and the right are really singing from the same songbook, some variations, but it harmonizes very well. The pincher strategy, propaganda, the messaging of the left and the right. It harmonizes very well. While they may be playing different parts, singing different parts, singing different notes, it harmonizes very well coming from the left and the right. And in the middle is their opposition. Christians, real Christians, many of our Messianic Jewish friends, and many of our Orthodox Jewish friends. When I explained the pincher strategy to my Jewish friend today on the phone, he said, I can see that. I can absolutely see that. So these are times to be very sober. You know what the word sober means, by the way? Sensible. The biblical word, be sober-minded, be sensible, have common sense, which is not common. Be sober-minded, be serious, be sensible. This is not a joke. Don't be flippant. Don't be cavalier. This is serious. You know, I want to ask you this. How many of you, even though you maybe hold to my eschatology, I'm pre-trib. I believe I can defend it from the scriptures. But that doesn't mean things can't get really bad for us here in America. Ask the folks living in Cuba or those who survived behind the Iron Curtain. How many of you, even if you hold to my eschatology, but maybe you don't, but how many of you have come to the belief in the last few years that it would not be crazy to be thinking about a disappearing act? How many of you, and I'm not one to run, I'm not one to surrender. But at the same time, have you ever thought, but wait a minute, I don't want to follow the mistake of history like the Jews and think, oh, this is a phase. It's a political agenda. This too shall pass. It'll all be okay. And what did we see in Nazi Germany? The right and the left came together. The German Christians, so-called, dissolved their denominations and united under the Reich bishop. How many of you ever think that, okay, I can still have my eschatology of pre-trib, but that doesn't mean that things can't get really bad? Have any of you in the back of your mind thought as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, maybe it's my obligation to start thinking about What would I need to do to shelter my family away? Because if the Lord does not return soon and bring the church home, we may very well in America find ourselves having to go and hide because we spoke truth. We're seeing the laws quickly change to try to prosecute people for speaking truth. I have a clip I'm going to play tonight on Brandon House Live and in my Worldview Report, where a member of Congress is telling one of the guys there at the Department of ICE that you guys need to understand that when Donald Trump is gone, we are going to prosecute you guys. We're going to come after you and we're going to prosecute you guys. Statute of limitations for some of this stuff is longer than President Trump will be in office. So you better hope you get a pardon before he leaves office because we're coming for you. And this is the climate we're in now. How long before they're hunting Christians? I remember in the early 90s, probably say 92, 93, 1992, 93. I remember watching Sound of Music. And at the end of the film, we're watching them go over the mountains to freedom, leaving it all behind, the Von Trapp family. I remember around 1992, 1993, watching that, and a huge conviction came over me watching that thing. And I thought to myself, can that happen in America? Will we one day find ourselves trying to get over a mountain or into the mountains to hide? Trying to get into the Smoky Mountains or whatever mountain range may be near you, seeking to hide because our government is seeking to track us down. I'm not trying to cause anyone to have fear or anxiety. That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to tell you folks is we are living in historical and really biblical times. And even my Jewish friends who have a long history of being persecuted from country to country and through thousands of years, even some of my Jewish friends are saying, I've been a little too unaware. My friend said, we get so busy with our jobs, our families, paying bills, all the busyness of life. And then you look up, you survey the landscape, and you realize, wait a minute, this is how it happened in the 1930s. People were just very, very busy. They weren't tuned in. They weren't interested in politics or economics or history. And they awoke, and when they finally awoke, it was too late. We'll be right back.
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. We got Chris Martinson tomorrow. Got my wires crossed. Actually, no, I don't have my wires crossed. I have it all written down perfectly. I just was on the wrong day. I'm on the wrong calendar. I flipped the page too soon. I flipped the page to Thursday. We're on Wednesday. I do want to go, though, to my friend Olivier Melnick. Take a look at this, though. Good news, my friends. Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, tweeted out today, Carrie Bajine Bowler has been removed from President Trump's Religious Liberty Commission. Yay! Do we have sound effects for applause? I don't know. We should. Wow. No member of the commission has the right to hijack a hearing from their own for their own personal and political agenda on any issue. This is clearly, without question, what happened Monday in our hearing on anti-Semitism in America. This was my decision. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas. By the way, some very interesting photographs have come out. And we also have Annie Cyrus digging. Oh boy, you do not want to get Annie Cyrus digging in your past, your history. She's very good at her job. Annie Cyrus is going to be bringing us a report on Carrie. And here we go. Look at this right out there on her own Twitter. Carrie Bajine Bowler. This is her own Twitter feed I'm looking at. This is every Zionist supremacist worst nightmare. Muslims, Christians, and Jews all united under the banner of religious freedom. We condemn Zionist supremacy and the demanding we deny our individual faith for the fear of being called anti-Semite. Religious freedom lives on. Logan, can you go to her account? Because in this day and age, we have to verify. Can you go to her account and verify? That's because I got a screenshot. Can we verify that, Logan? That's actually on her site. It really is. Can you send me a link to that, please? I would rather show it on her actual page than somebody else's screenshot of it. I also hear someone scratching at the door to get in. And assuming there's not a bear in the studio, I'm guessing that's Dolly. So we could always maybe open the door. I'm going to go to bookmark here. Oh, there it is. Look at that, folks. Listening friends by radio. It is her actual website. And it was put up 20 hours ago. 20 hours ago. Well, my friends, what did I tell you in those books so many years ago? When the persecution comes, it will come from a false dominant church, to be sure. Yeah, the left will be involved, but the most harsh persecution, I believe, will come from the church. Quote, church. That's a false church, not the real church. From Christians, many little c. Remember the presentation? What year was that we did, guys? 2008? 2008, the presentation by John Loeffler on the coming persecution of the West at our Ozarks Worldview Weekend. And he warned that when it happens, you will not be even safe among your so-called Christian friends. You will have to be very careful. I'm sure many in the audience thought, what? What? But you know, this is true. And all you have to do is study the writings of people like Richard Wurmbrand, the Romanian pastor who spent 14 years in a Romanian communist prison. And he warned of the same thing. Infiltrators inside the church. They'll be the ones that tattletale and snitch and turn you in. Some of them will be your own, quote, pastor, end quote, your own hireling, because a real pastor wouldn't do that. They'll be your pastor, quote, in quotes, put that in quotes, because the pastor will have been captured by money, blackmail, or sex. Richard Wurmbrand writes about this. People say, well, how is it you guys predict these things so far in advance? Because we study history. History doesn't repeat itself, but as one man said, it often rhymes. It's not hard when you study the sinful heart of man. There's really nothing new under the sun. Isn't that what Solomon said? You study history. The sinful heart of man. The lies of the devil, the snares of the devil that are used to entrap people, then use them as Satan's useful idiots. Joining me now is my Jewish friend, Messianic Jewish friend, Olivier Melnick. Olivier, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Brennan, good to see you. So, what can I possibly contribute after this monologue?
Well, I was going to ask, what do you make of the monologue today?
It's a little bit of good news that they would quickly remove her from her position. So that I'm very happy about that. That it shows that they're listening. I mean, there's a long way to go, but it shows that they're listening. And any of these people in any position in government or Hollywood or whatever place that decides to go after Israel and the Jews, if you were to honestly sit at a table with them and have a conversation and say, would you define Zionism for me, and would you tell me when it started and why and how? They just could not tell you any of it. All they could tell you is Zionism is racism, it's genocide. They're just basically rehashing what they've been told, but they're not even able to define what Zionism is, and yet they're quickly to say that they're anti-Zionist. So it's really sad. It's really sad, and we have people like this woman, and on top of that, in a meeting about anti-Semitism, that she would, it's one thing that they already spew their venom in all places on the social media, but to take the opportunity to do something like this when she's part of a team that is supposed to fight anti-Semitism, but honestly, Brennan, I think is pretty stupid. Because what did she expect? I mean, and she was removed. There's a lot of other people that need to be removed, and I fear that they will not be removed. I think part of the problem is that even in a Jewish community, the Jewish people, a lot of them are not understanding what's going on with anti-Semitism right now, and they're not addressing the problem. And I think we can see this very clearly with the ad that was ran during the Super Bowl. I don't know if you saw the ad.
I didn't watch the Super Bowl, so that would be a no.
Well, I did not. I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I was invited, so I watched parts of it. Certainly didn't watch the halftime. But there's always an ad, at least for the last 3 years, there's an ad that is from the Blue Square coalition. It's like a blue square with a pound sign, and it's supposed to be anti-racism, fighting anti-Semitism. And it was started, I think, in 2019 by Robert Kraft, the owner, the Jewish owner of the New England Patriots. And so he's paid for an ad for the last 3 years. I've seen every single one of them. And I saw the one for the Super Bowl prior to the game. It's basically a teenager walking through a corridor in a high school and being pushed, being bullied. Yeah, that's it. That's the ad. And he's being pushed. He's being bullied. And he's ridiculed, and he get to his locker, and then when he opens his locker, there is a sticky note that he finds that says "Dirty Jew," and then this kid behind him puts a blue square and says, "Come on, I'm your friend," and they walk away together, ignoring the people that made fun of him. And Brennan, I respect Robert Kraft for what he's doing as a Jewishman who wants to invest money in ads at the time where the vast majority of Americans are glued to their TV because they want to watch the game and also watch the funny commercials. So I get that. I think it's a really good time to reach a large audience. He paid $15 million for that ad. And I tell you, Brandon, it completely missed the mark. It completely missed the mark. What is it accomplishing? It's accomplishing nothing. It's painting the Jewish people as victims. And it doesn't show the gravity of where we are right now. And here, I just posted an article on our blog at Shalom and Messiah today, actually, or yesterday, I forgot, and discussing that, saying, can we find I forgot the title of it, but you probably can show it on the screen. Can we, what does it say? Can we fight the yellow star with a blue square? This is the problem, Brendan. People will get those little pins that they put on their on the lapel, or a patch or a sticker, or an image on their social media, and they go like, yeah, I feel good. I support Israel. I support the Jewish people. And I understand that this is a good thing to express that you support Israel, biblically, which of course is the best way, but even, people of goodwill who do not believe in God, and they exist. But the vast majority of people who do those pins, they just put a pin and they go like, okay, I've done my duty. I put the pin. People know I support Israel, but they absolutely do nothing that amounts to anything except that put a little symbol that says, "Hey, I'm not anti-Semitic." We are at a time, Brennan. We are past the 30s and the 40s. They're repeating themselves in so many ways, and right now, my call to Christians is you need skin in the game. You need to let your Jewish friends know that you're there for them. I mean, like you said, Brennan, you're a friend of Israel. You're a friend of the Jews. What would you do, Brennan, if a Jewish friend of yours would come in the middle of the night? I've been at your house. It's pretty secure. If I was to knock at 3 a.m. and say, "Hey, Brandon, can't go back home. Can't my bank account is frozen. I can't go to work. I can't do anything. I didn't know where to go. But you always say that you love the Jewish people, you love Israel. Can you help me and my family?" Would you look at me at 3 a.m? I mean, probably 3 a.m. I'd have to wake you up. I understand that. But would you look at me and say, "Olivier, I'll pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I'll call you in the morning"? Or would you say, "Olivier, come in. Let me help you"?
I'm not going to answer that question. You know me long enough. What do you think I would do?
I'm putting you on the spot because I know the answer. I know the answer. You would open your house. You would shelter me. You would protect me. You would feed me. You would be a perfect example of what we're going to see during the tribulation, the sheep and the goats. You would be the Gentile Christian who will go and say, "You're Jewish. I'm supposed to bless you and help you. What can I do to help?" Mm-hmm. You would do exactly that. And I think I was not trying to put you on the spot, Brendan, because
you're not putting me on the spot. You're not putting me on the spot. I said that to my Jewish friend today. I said to him, and we have not known each other but a couple of weeks, this Jewish friend of mine. But I don't have, time is short, and I don't have time to, waste or time to warm people up. So whenever I run into Jewish businessmen or people in town, I tell them right away who I am. Go look me up. I have a long resume. This is who I am. This is what I'm doing. My reporter on the ground in Israel. I'm aware of this. And I remember doing this with one Jewish gal, and her eyes filled with tears. It was our first time to ever meet. My wife was with me, and we met her, and it was we had a business meeting, and her eyes filled with tears. And I think I've introduced you to this individual, but I don't want to give away a lot of details. But her eyes filled with tears. She'd only met me 5 minutes. When she heard all I was saying about Israel, her eyes filled with tears because she finally met a Gentile. The dollar is dying. It's going down, and inflation is soaring. Are you prepared to lose through inflation your life saving, your purchasing power? I don't think you have to. I would urge you to go right now to worldviewgold.com. Worldviewgold.com. Get the free packet of information available. Because you know what? I've been working with this company for about 17 years, and I trust them. Now, look, I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. And my opinion is you should do your own homework and your own due diligence. And I think that starts with getting the free, no obligation packet of information on how to put gold into your IRA, how to acquire physical gold or silver, or what is known as numismatic, 1933 and older. Education is crucial, and it starts with this free packet at worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, or 1-877-864-1072, 1-877-864-1072, worldviewgold.com. Welcome back. Glad you're with anyway, I didn't get to finish my sentence. Her eyes filled with tears after just about 5, 6, 7 minutes of talking. And the reason why she finally met a Gentile that got her. I have a Jewish friend after October 7th on that night, that Saturday night. Melissa and I called her up. She's here in the U.S., family overseas. Many of her friends on that day, they were in a sukkah in her backyard when their phones all started going off about the attack on that Friday night. Within 48 hours, many of them were back in Israel in uniform. Because she has a child, she didn't have to go. And I interviewed her on TV that weekend. My wife and I took her to dinner that Saturday night. And then she asked about if I need anything, if I have to, if someone figures out who I am and what, my heritage, what could you and your wife do? And I said, well, we'll bring you to our house. And my wife and I got her an alarm system. And I told this Jewish friend of mine today, who I've only known 2 weeks, after he said, I'm waking up to realize this is how it happened in the 30s. And even I've been too busy with work and everything. And I'm looking up now going, this is how it happened to them.
Yeah.
And I said the same thing to him. Well, I'm a righteous Gentile. You're my Orthodox Jewish friend. You got my number. I even asked him, do you know the rabbi at this synagogue? And he said, oh, yeah. I said, well, I'm friends with his wife. His wife calls me from time to time to ask about this or that or a favor for this or that. I said, I'm deliberately trying to be known in the Jewish community as a righteous Gentile. So you spread the word, keep looking me up online, follow what I'm doing, spread the word. There's one of them here in town at least that gets it. That's what I'm trying to do versus just wearing a pen.
And that's exactly what we need to hear, Brennan. And thank you for that. That's the model. That's the model that we see that's going to take place during the tribulation. But that's the model that we can apply today. And things are moving so fast, and they're moving so fast. People need to identify their Jewish neighbors. Sometimes they're across the street or next door. Identify your Jewish neighbors. Let them know that. Let them know that if they need help, your place is a sanctuary. That you'll do exactly what we talked about. This is where we are right now, and I never thought we would live, prior to the rapture to see things to get that bad. And when in your opening, Brennan, you said, there's no guarantee that it's not going to get bad, pre-trib, pre-mill. And I have the same view. I believe the next event is the signless event known as the rapture of the believers. But before that, it can get, and probably will get, a lot darker. And we see how fast it's getting, and how fast things are being controlled. And I certainly don't want to get into the topic of AI because I am not an AI expert. I just kind of keep an eye and I watch. But I know that as things get darker, AI is going to be used against Christians and against Jews, and that's before the rapture. And things are exponentially happening right now. And so Christians, if you're watching, we don't have time. We're on board time right now. We need to be ready to help the Jewish people, and also be ready that for things that it's going to get worse. And and Brandon, me, I'm not a prepper. I'm not somebody who say like, oh, we're going to have to go through a tribulation. I need to get like canned food and ammo, and I'm ready if things get a little difficult, but I never thought it would be that bad. I mean, every day there was something, and the Jewish people are very scared right now. Everywhere around the world. We go to Israel several times a year, and we go in. Even recently, we went back, and the question is always the same. So, why are you coming? What are you doing here? I mean, nobody's coming. Tourism is picking up again. But about a year ago, I had been, I think after October 7, 2023, I'd been to Israel 5 times, and to bring supplies to the IDF, and we do that through a ministry. If anybody wants to help, they can go to shalomandmessiah.com and then donate and help us build this so we can bring more supplies to the IDF, and we'd appreciate that. But we bring supplies and they go like, "Why are you coming? What are you doing?" We tell them, because we have to help. We're Christians. We read our Bibles and we know what's going on, and we need to be there. And in the process, we show the love of Jesus, the love of Messiah. So we need more people like you, Brandon. And I just hope I never have to go knock on your door at 3 a.m.
Well, you know the answer. The door will be opened unto you.
Amen. Thank
Candace
you.
Owens has put out a tweet 3 hours ago responding to Dan Patrick, who said she's been removed. Candace said, Carrie didn't hijack anything. You hosted a performative Zionist hearing meant to neuter the Christian faith. Carrie spoke truth as a Catholic, and Christians, the truth cannot be defeated. Zionists are naturally hostile to Catholics because we refuse to bend the knee to revisionist history and support the mass slaughter and rape of innocent children for occult Baal worshipers. Your decision will only further the Christian enlightenment which is taking place in this country, and for that we thank you. End quote. Really?
Yeah.
Did she not just call you guys, the Jews, the Zionists? Because you can be a Zionist that's a Christian or an atheist, but you can be a Zionist. Obviously, most Jews are Zionists. They believe in the historical right of the land. Did she just call you guys, bend the knee to revisionist history and support the mass slaughter and rape of innocent children for occult Baal worshipers? Did she just accuse you guys of that, Jews?
Well, here's one of the problems with Candace Owens, and I'm getting so sick of talking about her. She's become boring to me, and she's a disgrace. She puts the Jewish people. She paints the Jewish people as monolithic because she calls us as the Talmudic Jews. She said, "Oh, the Jews, the Baal worshippers, demon possessed pedophiles," and you've seen those videos.
I have.
She posts. Here's the problem, Candace, if you're watching, and I know she's not watching, but maybe somebody will show it to her. We are not a monolithic. I'm not talking about monotheistic, different word, okay? Monotheistic, Jewish people are monotheistic, we believe in one God, and I, as a Messianic Jew, believe in one God in three person, the triune Godhead of God. But that's, I digress. We are not monolithic. Jews are not all the same. We exist on a very, very wide spectrum from agnostic to ultra-Orthodox and everything in between. So to say that, to call us the Talmudic Jew shows right there, right off the starting gate, that you have no clue about what you're talking about. You are not describing the Jewish people. You're just making a statement that feeds your agenda. And you quote this book, The Talmudic Jew, I forgot the name. I have I have the cover in my head because I used it in the presentation. She quoted the book, The Talmudic Jew, in which the author basically promotes the view that started in 1141 in England. That was a lie promoted by the testimony of one Catholic monk who said that they found a little Christian boy that had been killed and drained of his blood, and they said the Jews, and during Holy Week, and William of Mormouth was his name, and in 1141, I believe, and that was the very first blood libel. The Jews used blood to make matzah for Passover, so which of course we take blood out of everything if we keep the Mosaic law because it's forbidden, even in the Bible, not even in the Talmud, in the Bible. So that's again not understanding the Bible and promoting lies that are not based on the Bible, and then describing the Jewish people as monolithic. But so Candace Owens she's using whatever is left of the authority she had maybe 10 years ago as a young female African-American conservative. That ship has sailed. It is time people don't listen to her anymore. She is toxic. And I don't like to do character assassination, so I'm not going to say this about anybody online or on paper unless it's the truth. She is toxic, and when it comes to Israel and the Jewish people, she is completely clueless.
And wouldn't you put Tucker Carlson in that same camp?
Don't get me started on Tucker. I'm in the process. You listen, I take blood pressure medication. on a good day. When I go on your show, I have to double my dose.
Well, let me kick it up for you a little more. Have you guys vetted this for language? Okay, here's Michael Moore. Keep your finger on the button in the control room, Dalton. But they said they didn't hear anything. I'm hearing it for the first time. Michael Moore on MSNBC. Here we go.
What is the crime? Because according to my knowledge of history, the enemies of Israel who have been persecuted, the Israelis, the Jewish people of this world have been persecuted for 5,000 years. But for the last 2,000 years, most of the persecution has come from white, European-centric Christians. That's been your enemy. No Palestinian helped to build Auschwitz. No Palestinian stood on the docks of New York City when boatloads of Jewish refugees trying to escape the Holocaust came here to be protected by this country and were turned away at the docks in New York and sent back to Germany to die. No Palestinian did that. No Palestinian ran the Spanish Inquisition. Your enemy is not the Palestinian people. It is white, Christian, European people who have been slaughtering Jews for the last 2,000 years. And let's just call it for what it is. But why are they in an open-air prison? Why are 2 million of them in an open-air prison?
Okay, now let's not confuse facts here, okay? He says some things that are true. We did have a boat full of Jews that needed to find a harbor and safe refuge. And due to the anti-Semitism that was in America, due to a Catholic priest on radio, Father Coughlin, if I remember his name right, and this is anti-Semitism he was preaching, there was an anti-Semitic flare in the country then. And that ship didn't get to dock with those Jews on it. And many of them did end up getting sent back and did die. And we as a country should acknowledge that. But the Palestinian...
He's mixing parts of history. Here's what he's doing. He's talking about, he's accusing the Christians of going after the Jews. And I'll be the first one to say, I have written that in several of my books about the church history, and how we have done so much, the church has done so much against the Jews. I agree with the church's guilt against the Jews, but what he's saying your enemy is not the Palestinians. He's talking about things that happened at a day of history where Palestinians did not even exist on paper. Palestinians did not exist until the mid-'60s anyway.
There was a creation of Yasser Arafat.
Creation of Arafat to completely destabilize the region.
With the KGB behind him.
With the KGB.
Yep.
Exactly.
And exactly. If he wants to talk about, though, any of the alliances with today's Palestinians, that would be Hamas, right? That would be Muslim Brotherhood. Hamas came about in 1987, but it came from Muslim Brotherhood, which started in 1928. And the Grand Mufti of Palestine was Muslim Brotherhood. And he, according to the Nuremberg trials and the pictures I have, helped to be an architect of the Holocaust. We have pictures of him surveying the land while the concentration camps were being built. And in the Nuremberg trial, it was reportedly he, the Grand Mufti of Palestine, al-Husseini, who would not allow about 3,000 children to leave, who were going to be allowed to leave, who ended up on his orders being slaughtered. Why is that in Michael Moore's history? I want you to respond when we come back. Hard break, computer's taking it away. Right back.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefit by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
with his Worldview Radio website, worldviewradio.com. So respond. I mean, we have the Nuremberg trials that show that indeed the Grand Mufti, Muslim Brotherhood Grand Mufti, which would be today Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood gave birth to Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood, around in 1928. He was working directly with Hitler. He was involved in the architecture of the final solution. It's well documented. I have black and white photographs to prove it. And Michael Moore, of course, has to go to something that wasn't even going on then, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. But he could have very easily gone and done the history and said, but wait a minute, the Grand Mufti, the Muslim Brotherhood, which is Hamas, which was involved in October 7th, this is their long history. But no, he had to blame it on all white Europeans. Now, the white Europeans did their part, the confessing, or the German Christians, as we denoted the name, in Germany, united under the Reich bishop, handpicked by Hitler, and were heavily involved in this. But the reality is, it was also the same villains we see on the world stage today.
Absolutely. And Brandon, I hate to do this to you, but I had a hard stop 7 minutes ago, so I really have to go. But what Michael Moore was doing was selective historical revisionism. He was using parts of history to make a point that has absolutely no, that doesn't hold water historically, and he's trying to go to shift the blame to basically whitewash the Palestinians and basically give them a out of jail card so that they won't be accused of anything. But the reality is, if you really want to summarize it, is that up to the 1960s, you could say that, and to an extent today still, people within the church have gone against the Jews. So are Christians responsible for anti-Semitism? Yes, unfortunately, many of them are. Many of them are not Christians and call themselves Christians. Many of them are Christians and they're misled, or they're just anti-Semitic because that's human nature, and they hate, and that you can still be a Christian and hate the Jews, unfortunately, which is weird. That doesn't make sense to me. And so you have that, and then you have the today the Arabs, the Palestinians, not just the Palestinians, but most of the Arab world hates the Jews. So both, he's right in the sense that both Christians and and Arabs have gone against the Jews, but to mix history like he's doing it, it makes no sense at all. He's basically ignoring things like the Grand Mufti. I mean, the Grand Mufti worked with Hitler. I mean, like you said, there are photos to prove it, and that's before AI, that's before Photoshop, before all that. The Grand Mufti would have helped Hitler extend the Holocaust into Israel had Hitler stayed in power for a little longer. There's no question about it.
You got that right. ShalomInMessiah.com. ShalomInMessiah.com. My friend Olivier Melnick. Thank you, Olivier.
God bless you.
You too, my friend. And then today, or yesterday actually, my friend Robert Spencer, I'll do it this tonight on the Worldview Report. My friend Robert Spencer spoke before a congressional committee on the rise of Sharia in America. Isn't it interesting? The Christians, quote, Christians, giving cover to Islam and attacking the Jews. The Jews are the problem while they're aligned with the Muslims, getting their picture with them. Satan infiltrating the church again, a false church, which is what you see in Revelation chapter 17, verse 1, a harlot who sits on many waters. That's a false dominant church. Many theologians and people confuse the harlot that sits on many waters, Revelation 17, verse 1, with the scene change. John says, I was taken away in the spirit and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, different entity altogether. And then you see in about the middle of the chapter, that woman that you saw that was sitting on many waters, the Antichrist and his assistants turn and devour her and eat of her flesh and burn her. That's Antichrist getting rid of the false dominant church to set up now the new religion, the worship of himself, who is Satan possessed, fulfilling Isaiah, where Satan says 5 times, I will be like God, I will be worshiped. And here is Satan embodying the Antichrist, setting up the new religion, the worship of Antichrist, which is really the worship of Satan. And it even says in the text, they worship the beast. They worship the dragon. They know what they're doing. It says it in the text. They worship the beast. They worship the dragon. The dragon, Satan. They're one and the same. Because Antichrist is Satan possessed at some point, probably right after the mortal, deadly head wound and what appears to be a resurrection. And his being called back out of the abyss. And yet, that false dominant church is being built right now. Right now. Robert Spencer just testified, as I said. Here's just a little bit of what Robert had to say about the rise of Sharia. How is this going to go down for us Christians and our Jewish friends?
About what Sharia actually is. When the city of Keller, Texas, scrapped an anti-Sharia resolution in January 2026, the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations, CAIR, stated that like canon law for Catholics and halakha for Orthodox Jews, Sharia refers to the rules that Muslims follow, including praying 5 times a day, fasting in Ramadan, giving in charity, and following the laws of the land in which they live. If that were really all that Sharia were about, no reasonable person would have any problem with it. CAIR doesn't mention, however, that Sharia is inherently political, supremacist, expansionist, and violent. Far from being the Islamophobic conspiracy theories of CAIR's imagining, these are facts that Muslim authorities on Sharia openly attest. Reliance of the Traveler, Umdat as-Salik, is a classic manual of Islamic sacred law that is Sharia. In 1990, Dr. Taha Jabir Alawani, president of the International Institute of Islamic Thought, as well as president of the Fiqh Council of North America, stated that this Sharia manual was useful as a textbook for teaching Islamic jurisprudence.
And so if you want to understand it, get a copy in English of The Reliance of the Traveler. It's their textbook. And you'll see all about the jizya, taxing the non-Muslim, jihad, the duty of the Muslim. And it's not just cultural. Yeah, there's a cultural jihad, but boy, howdy, it could be a lot more than that. And watch as the false Christians, the false church, lays the foundation for the persecution of Jews and Christians, as I think we just saw with Kerry regime. Stay tuned for Crosstalk. Take care.
This has been
And we're back with WROS out of Jacksonville, Florida, and you here on Worldview Tube. Let me go back to a little bit more by Robert Spencer, his testimony before Congress, a congressional committee. Listen.
The most prestigious institution of Islamic learning in the world, Al-Azhar in Cairo, stated in 1991 that the same manual of Sharia conforms to the practice and faith of the Orthodox Sunni community. We read in this same guide to Sharia that jihad means war against non-Muslims and that it is a communal obligation upon the Muslim community. The object of this war is to establish the hegemony of Sharia over the conquered land. For non-Muslims, this means an institutionalized, highly codified second-class status that denies them basic rights. Non-Muslims living under Sharia must pay the non-Muslim poll tax, jizya, that is specified in the Quran, verse 929. This religion-based tax is designed to indicate, as the renowned Islamic scholar Ibn Kathir explained, that the non-Muslims who are paying it are disgraced, humiliated, and belittled. The non-Muslims in this state of disgrace and humiliation are not allowed to build new houses of worship or repair old ones, so their communities are in a perpetual state of decline. They are forbidden to make any public display of their religion. They're relegated to the most menial jobs in society, for they are forbidden to hold authority over Muslims. If they say anything critical about Islam, Muhammad, or the Quran, they're liable to be put to death. From all this, it is clear that Sharia is not simply Muslim personal religious law. On the contrary, Sharia-based legal and civic institutions are contrary to America's founding principles and violate federal law and the Constitution in numerous particulars. The death penalty for mentioning what Reliance of the Traveler terms as something impermissible about Allah, the Prophet, or Islam, that is blasphemy, is directly at variance with First Amendment freedom of speech protections. The Islamic imperative to establish the hegemony of Sharia as the law of the land, as in today in the Islamic Republic of Iran, Afghanistan, and elsewhere, is obviously at variance with the First Amendment principle of non-establishment of a religion. Even in its personal aspects, Sharia does contradict U.S. law. The Quran states that a man should beat a woman from whom he fears disobedience. That's chapter 4, verse 34. Domestic violence is a crime in U.S. law, but it is not a crime under Sharia. And we have the example of what happened in Britain. Britain began establishing Sharia courts several years ago with the understanding that cases that came under the purview of British criminal law would be referred to the British criminal courts. Instead, the Muslim Arbitration Tribunal on its website urged the Crown Prosecution Service to reconsider bringing criminal charges against Muslim men who'd been accused of domestic violence. And as this is in the Quran, the same thing would happen here. As Sharia is considered divine law, those Muslims who adhere to it always consider that it takes precedence over the laws of the land. Moreover, emigration to a new land to bring Sharia to it is also an Islamic imperative. The Quran in chapter 4, verse 100 promises a reward from Allah to those who emigrate for the sake of Allah, which means for the purpose of bringing Sharia to a non-Muslim land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
Well, there you go. And great job, my buddy, a regular guest, Robert Spencer. And yet, of course, you had members of this committee who wanted to declare that this was an absolute waste of time. One of them's name is Cohen. Can you look up, Logan? Is Cohen, he's a U.S. congressman for Memphis. Is Cohen Jewish? I'm pretty sure. Congressman Cohen, C-O-H-E-N. I'm pretty sure. He said that hearing was a complete waste of time, that we had very pressing issues in the country. He's Jewish. I knew he was. I just wanted to double check. We have very pressing issues in the country, and this is not one of them, he said. He thought this was a complete waste of time. I hate to say it, there are some of the Jews that are going to get it too late. They're going to come to an understanding when it's too late. And yet, while I don't agree with Mr. Cohen politically at all, once he gets it, I'm more than happy to help and assist him in what needs to be done to help defend and protect the Jewish community in my part of the country. I'm tired of whether they're a Democrat or a Republican. So many of my friends, like my Jewish friend I talked to today, I don't know what he is. I don't know. I didn't ask, and I don't care, because I wasn't looking to find common ground because he's a registered Republican. I could care less. The Republicans are just as dangerous as the Democrats, maybe more so, because the Democrats will tell you up front what they want. The Republicans will tell you what you want to hear and then run in lockstep with the Democrats. But my friend and I never got into political party. What we got into, where we agreed, is the need to defend religious freedom and liberty and protect each other, the Saturday people and the Sunday people. Take care.